So Summer 8 is right around the corner and you just got off of being booty blasted by Ace's banner and you're wondering, okay, I have literally 30 Saint Quartz, where do I prioritize these? Which banners, what reruns should I be focusing on? And do not worry, I am here to not only tell you what you're going to be doing, but I have very helpful tiers. We have the must summons, technically not a must summon, but these guys are still really dang good. Then you're just good characters. Like, these guys are just really strong. They're just generally really strong. You don't have to prioritize them, but if you happen to get them, they're just good guys. And then you have your IE characters. You know, you pull them, maybe you'll use them every now and then, maybe they're okay, they're technically usable. And then I'm sorry for the loss of your Saint Quartz, which I'm pretty sure there's only maybe one or two characters that are going to end up in here, but you know, we'll get there when we get there. So don't forget, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And let's just start diving right into this so I don't take up too much of your time. Now, technically, this character, Summer Maeve, does not have to go on this tier list. They're the free-to-play. You know, you're not really going to be summoning for them. You'll just play the event and get them as you go. And I'm just going to kind of put them in this I-ite, you know, character tier thing. I know some people are really high on this character. They think she's, like, really dang good. I think she's okay. I think if you want to try to squeeze some value out of her, you can, but for me, more trouble than it's worth. She's a free-to-play foreigner, so if you don't have anybody, she might actually kind of bump up a little bit on your box. You might really value her, because free NP5, foreigner, and technically has synergy with Castoria. You know, that's pretty much the only person she wants to work with, but I think she's a little bit too much hassle, too much, you know, effort to really make do. But again, my arts AoE characters are a lot better on my account, so I just kind of think she's aight. Now let's move into probably one of the first. It's really hard for me to not put her in the must summon, you know, category, because this character is in contention for one of the best characters that's coming out this year. I mean, what's not to love about this character? They have a 70% split battery between two of their skills, one of those technically being targetable, so it could be a 50% self battery and then a 20% targetable on somebody else. I mean, she's rocking like 3 power mods. She can crit all over the place, and if you don't have your own Castoria, well, look at that, look at whoopity-doo, you also get access to Solemn defense, because why wouldn't you get access to Solemn defense on a Castoria character? She just gives it to everybody on her NP, not stackable like the original Castorias, but you often just have so much Solemn defense if you're using her plus the OG Castoria. There's too much Solemn defense going around, but it's still a really strong thing for her to have because she's a Zerk, and you know, a gust of wind is going to take her out. So having the strongest defensive ability in the game is quite good. I mean, her damage, I've seen some people say that, oh, maybe it's not all that high. And sure, you might look at her base damage and say, CTL, her base damage isn't the craziest, but then you factor in that she's got a billion power mods, and then her follow-up face cards are doing just millions of damage, well, not literally millions, but thousands of damage, I guess, because, you know, she's just reinforcing them with very, very strong crits. She's just overall an insanely high-value character to get on your account, especially because she is a berserker that, say you have Draco can kind of fill that same single target arts niche, but the corner cases where it matters, you're really gonna feel it in like your 90++ nodes, because her as a berserker is going to have access to more enemies that she can hit for more effective damage, whereas Draco as a beast does hit a lot of characters, but then you can nitpick, oh well, you know, that guy's not a main class servant, or that guy's a ruler, she can't really do anything to them, whereas Castoria really only cares about not fighting foreigners. And even then, I mean, if you get the power mods lining up right, I'm sure you could still have her looking pretty in those fights. I mean, this character is just really, really strong. Then we have a pretty II character, right? I'm not gonna say that Summer Suzuka's a fraud, but if you're looking forward to your tan waifu and you're like, dude, I'm gonna be looping all over the place with Suzuka, you can get the job done with her. It's not pretty. She does have a really nice Earth power mod, and if you're gonna be bringing her to CQs, I think her kit is pretty well kitted for that. She's got some nice stuff going on that. But if you're looking for a quick looper, she's kind of aight. But if you're kind of looking for, you know, an AoE boss killing servant, right, to kind of take out all the goobers that are around them, then she might kind of rise up to being a solid character. But 90% of players are going to look at this character and say, oh my goodness, it's my crazy quick looper. And then they're going to use her and they're going to be a little disappointed, because I was there. I looked at her kit when she initially dropped, I thought she was going to be disgustingly broken, and she's unfortunately one of those characters that when you look at them on paper and then you look at them in practice, something just ain't adding up. You know, the math ain't mathin', but she's not a complete fraud. Like, if you want to use her, she's a rider, so thankfully she's fighting casters. Casters give you the most refund back, because if you don't know, maybe you're a newer player getting into the anniversary, different classes give you different amounts of refund. You know, if you're fighting a caster, you're like, dude, my guy's looping all over the place, and I'm fighting berserkers and assassins and I'm getting nothing back. You know, that's the reason why. So her being a rider pretty much tailored into fighting casters does kind of help her out a little bit in the refund department, but things can get really rough whenever you need to bring her to go fight Zerg. So she's right? She can get the job done, but you probably will be replacing her with a different quick looper if that's your prerogative. Then you have Summer Chloe. Now, this is technically not a must summon, right? Everybody will tell you that this is like the most broken character that comes out this summer, and I think those people are absolutely crazy. This character opens up a lot of different interesting setups because functionally, they're Miss Crane, but better for two reasons, I would say. One, the plug suit is accessible through one of her skills. You don't need to fire her NP, so you can just, click it. You don't need to, finagle with any stars or anything like that. But two, she's a 4-star. One of Miss Crane's weaknesses for me is the fact that she is a 5-star and she costs so much, so it's really hard to kind of fit her into team comps. Chloe being a 4-star is just a little bit cheaper, so it's a little easier to put her in there. And she's giving you some really strong buffs. Like, she's giving you the quick stuff, she's giving you the NP damage, which is notable if you're throwing Oberon in those team setups, and we'll talk about him in a second. But I also think that those team setups that you're able to do with Summer Chloe do overshadow the fact that she's not a bad single target Avenger by any means. Like, she's really strong. If you need a quick DPS, this character can get the job done. I mean, I'm rather impressed in my usage recently and kind of retesting these units to kind of refamiliarize myself with them, that she kind of holds up. She could do some pretty good damage. So that's why I'm like, not a must summon. Like, you don't have to keep going on the banner if you don't get Summer Chloe. She just opens up different team comps. I mean, the most famous one is the Immortal Arash. Like, you can use Arash as a buster farmer, which is really funny, but it's not like that's the most meta thing you could be doing. There's obviously better characters you can do, but it's funny, right? If you really like Arash, you can get her for that, but technically not a must summon. But if you do get her while you're going on Castoria's banner, that's a fat W, because this character is not only a really good DPS, but they can also open up new avenues on your account, which is really strong. Oberon, I don't really think we need to talk too much about this. This isn't ordered, I'm just kind of putting them in as I go through, but Oberon, I mean, what has not been said about this guy? If you're a new player, I'll give you the rundown. Effectively, this guy gives you 70% battery, which is explicitly needed if you're going to be farming with your 30% battery servants. There's a few exceptions like Artoria, because she gives herself 20% refund on her NP, but think about like the Karna video I did yesterday. That's a 30% battery servant. He needs Oberon because you re-loop the 30% battery, but you need 70% still. And would you look at that? Oberon gives you 20% on the first skill and 50% on the second skill. There's some demerits, but you don't really care about all those because usually the fight is going to be over. And if you're doing farming setups, the fight just is over, right? So you don't care that you're losing NP and that his third skill, while it's giving you all these monstrous buffs, it's gonna lock my servant down. You just use that whenever you're going to end the fight, which also does have CQ applicabilities as well. You kind of let your servant, wham bam thank you ma'am through break bar 1 and 2, and then the third break bar comes out, you just dump this on them and they usually just one-shot the boss, because not only is it a massive buster buff, but it's also overclocking your NP damage. So if you have Black Grail loopers, they just get taken to the maximum. They go to the heaven tier, right? Because of this guy, because they have a 60 to 80% NP damage buff, plus the 20% that he gives on his first skill, and that's getting overclocked by his third skill. So it also is really strong for your art setups, because art setups are natively really strong with Black Grail. Not every buster looper can use Black Grail, but hey, that's why he gives you the buster buff on the third skill, kind of helps you out a little bit. But pretty much every single arts character should be Black Grail compliant, if they're a little bit modernized, right? So that means that they also get a really strong buff from him. Quick also gets that benefit, but some of the quick loopers really need the triple Skadi system because they need that extra quick buff from the caster Skadi, so they're getting enough refund, right? Sometimes the raw NP isn't enough to make up for the fact that the quick card does not loop as hard as the arts card. So this guy is just really strong. If you have really good buster, arts characters, you want this guy. But even, again, you do want him for some of your quick setups as well, because once we start getting better and better quick characters, they'll be able to make use of him, and he's just really good to have on your account. These chuckle nuts are coming out on his banner. If you do roll for them and you're like, how do these guys hold up? I think they're aight. Like, I think they're all fine. They're kind of all aged out a little bit. Gawain just got his buff, or is getting his buff tonight, or I guess the night before this video went up, and it makes him a bit better, right? It lets him stack crit damage. You know, he's doing a little bit of extra damage on his NP, but he's not buster looping compliant because he only has a 20% battery, so unfortunate that they didn't give him anything to fix up that. But if you just need a guy to kind of do some damage, maybe you're just bringing him into story fights, he's aight, right? You know, he's fine. Probably the least usable, though, out of the group of these guys, because, you know, you're not really going to bring Gawain to boss battles, and you're probably not going to try to force him into Buster team comps for Buster looping, but at least these two guys are fairly usable. Like, Lancelot is just baby's first arts looper, right? Like, you just kind of click all three of his skills, and you just kind of have him hack away at people. It's really easy. He's got a battery that drops stars, he's got star weight, and then he's got the crit damage. And then they're going to buff his NP to where he gets like an arts buff, or he's already gotten it. Sorry, sometimes I get the JP and the NA timelines kind of mixed up here, but it makes him fine. Like, he's able to do some pretty decent damage. It fixes that up a little bit. He loops a little bit easier. He's fine. Tristan has a weird NP seal thing on him, but you can't argue with the fact that he does rock a 50% battery and is a single target. So I don't know, maybe you going on the Oberon banner, you get a couple of copies of Tristan, maybe he can help you out in like a boss fight or a 90++ node in the future. I don't know, like, you can maybe finagle something. I mean, that's why he's in the I tier. It's kind of hard to not be at least aight if you have a 50% battery, and he's got, you know, some team support. You know, he has like the debuff cleanse, he gives everybody the dodge, you know, that's nice, that's kind of neat. Now we move into the second wifey banner over here of the new characters, starting off with Summer Melusine. Now, this might cause a little bit of debate in the comments, but I don't think Summer Melusine is so crazy, especially with another dragon that's going to be coming back around, that I can say that she's a must summon. Now, granted, when the video comes out, it'll still be like, is Melusine a must summon? That's just kind of on brand. But to keep it real with you, this character is legitimately very, very strong. They're really good into those 90++ nodes because they have an 80% battery. So even if you're going up against one enemy and you only refund at like 20% of your NP or 25%, that 80% battery is still enough to get you across the finish line. This character can still do some really nasty crits. She's functionally kind of like an AoE version of this Artoria over here, where she's also rocking multiple power mods. It's just, unfortunately, she kind of got hoed a little bit by having the ruler classing, because that means she's going type neutral into things, which is good. But if you have the option to go super effective with, I don't know, hypothetically, if there was an AoE arts berserker that was going to be going on right up, you'd rather have that. So she is pretty dang good. I can't say that she's a must summon, but I mean, this is the tier of they're dummy good. They're really strong, but technically, if you're prioritizing other people, you can work around them, right? Like, you don't need this character. They're really nice to have, but they're not needed, right? So Summer Sith over here and Summer Bargus, I'm gonna slap them in the good solid characters, because these are guys that if you pick them up while you're summoning for Summer Melusine, because let's be honest, most people are probably just going to summon on the Fae banner anyway, because it's the Lost Belt 6 waifus all on one banner. I understand, it's a very popular banner. And all three of these guys are pretty solid. Bargus is really solid in the way that she can not only be a really strong single target arts archer for you, but she can also be an arts AoE, because she can swap her targeting on her NP. That's really useful, right? If you just need somebody to do both roles, you know, maybe you don't end up getting Summer Melusine, this character is a pretty decent arts looper in her own right. Or maybe you're lacking in the single target department and you just need somebody to start laying down the damage. UDK Bargus can do that for you. Sith, I would say, probably could convert up into this tier, but I think the problem is, I'm trying to think about this from a player's perspective. I don't think a lot of people are going to take the time to try and utilize this character. I think truly they're up here. Like, I think this character is phenomenal as a boss fight servant or even a solo servant. They are supremely powerful, but I'm thinking about, you know, the average player going into the banner. They're going to look at the just smorgasbord of effects that they have, even after my guide comes out and I break it all down for you, it's still going to be one of those things where I can definitely see people going like, I don't think this character is worth my salt, you know? So I'm kind of helping you with your priority list. You know, if you are able to snag Bargus because she's your top priority, and if you're wondering, oh, do I keep going on the banner? You know, you put in the work to learn how to use this character, they're really strong. But if you don't really care, or it's too much and you're like, dude, I just play this game to farm and loop, and I farm lottos and stuff, I don't care about all that, then they probably fall down to just being a good solid character. It's hard to put them any lower than this because their kit is just absolutely loaded it to the brim with really strong effects. But again, I can understand some people saying that like, they're just all right, because it might be one of those characters that the skill in using them is just remembering all the things that they do. So again, I think they're really good. I think that I would maybe argue they could go a tier higher, but I can understand if you really just think that they're good and solid. Because again, this is not a bad tier. This is just like these characters are good. They're just strong. Tets is coming back around as well for the summer banners. Usually, I think what was it, like Doman 2 years in a row, and now it's Tets. I mean, I'll definitely take it. Tets is a really strong character. This guy has his own, you know, looping system, right, where you can just bring 2 Tetses, because not only do they buff each other because they both have a gut, so they pretty much double attack buff each other on that, so they're hitting really hard. They also give each other batteries. They both have like a 50%, and then they also give the battery to the entire party. So there are just some setups where you can just bring double Tets and they'll just kind of loop all over the place. So I can see them having a bit more value if, say, you're a person that doesn't have Castoria and you're like, I don't know if I want to summon for these arch loopers because I don't know if they're going to be right for me. Well, Tets kind of breaks the mold a little bit, kind of like a Tai Gong or a Lo-Hai, right, that's coming out next December is when we're going to be getting her. They're these characters that instead of bringing their main support, you could just bring double of these guys and they can kind of lock it down, which is why I think he has a lot of extra value, because if you're a new player, you can get some extra value out of them. You could still use them as a looper just because of how they function. Now, this is one that I was kind of debating on where I want to put them, because technically, Lady Avalon's not a must summon. You don't need this character, but they are functionally baby Castoria. Like, if you don't have your own Castoria, with a friend's and then your own Lady Avalon, you can kind of jerry-rig an art setup together. It's kind of like what a Nero Bride does for you. If you don't have your own Castoria or Nero Bride can kind of facilitate being her own Castoria, right? Which is why this one is really weird to put on here, because I wouldn't say you need to hard prioritize this character, but it feels really weird not putting them in the must summon category because they are just legitimately really strong. So I'm going to put them up in this upper echelon tier, but I'm going to say that's with a little bit of an asterisk, because if you've already got all these other supports and everything, you know, you have your own Castoria, you can prioritize going for people like Ibuki, for, you know, Summer Castoria, or you can go for Ruler Melusine if you want. You can prioritize those other guys. She's a nice additional support to have, and, you know, she makes your life easier going into CQs, but like I myself, I don't have Lady Avalon on the NA version, and I've been absolutely fine. But then again, I also have Castoria. So this is one of those ones where results may vary, right? Depends on what your box looks like. If you don't have Castoria, then maybe you prioritize this character a little bit more. But if you already have Castoria, you could put her a little lower on the priority list. Same thing for Summer Ibuki. I think if you don't have yourself a good arts AoE looper, you just bag Summer Ibuki. This character has been hard carrying my JP account. Like, I'm just gonna keep it a buck with you guys, because not only is she a really good looper in her own right, I mean, I'm literally using her to 3-turn the current Lotto 90++ that's on JP, and, you know, able to get it consistently down so that a certain program can maybe lock that down for me. So if she's able to do stuff like that consistently, this character's a banger. But not only just because of that, they're also kind of a pseudo support in a way. Like, I've done 90++s where, because Ibuki's first skill is a charisma and her second skill is targetable, I can just say, well, Ibuki, you're going to do enough damage to wipe this 100k wave, but my single target's not doing enough to take out the final guy on the 90++ node. What if you just give the buffs to them? And so in that way, you get to eke out and squeeze more damage out of your team comms, and this character's just really good for that. Not only are they a really strong looper, but they're not selfish like, say, the Ruler Melusine is, which I guess kind of makes sense in a lore aspect. You guys can argue about that in the comment section down below. But I think this character is just a higher value for me personally. In the way that they're a berserker, you can bring them anywhere. They're going to be super effective. They have the multi-core type of appeal to them, and they're just really strong in their own right. Earth Power mod is really strong. There are just numerous enemies that you can fight on that, whether they're free quest enemies or actual servant enemies. So she's just phenomenal. Ruler Skadi. This also might be a little contentious depending on where you sit on the fence, but I think there are just a oogles amount of good quick characters that we have in the game. And the only reason, people are like, quick is bad or whatever, is because you haven't experienced it, right? You got to get your grubby little mitts on Ruler Skadi, and I promise you'll see the light. You'll see how strong some of these characters are. I mean, look, I've seen some of the comments, right? People are baffled that you can do Black Grail looping with your quick characters. They're like, what? Quick characters can loop that well? Yeah, we got some really dummy good quick characters. I mean, dude, Bradamonte is out here doing Black Grail looping, and they didn't even give her that much. I mean, they gave her like 10% extra battery and a smidgen of NP gain. And now a character that was like refunding 10% of their NP is out here doing enough so that they could do Black Grail looping, and that is because of Ruler Skadi over here. And look, if you want new Dantes, if you want Lilith in the future, or Bisquion or Low High, pick your poison, right? Any of these like really cool quick characters that are going to be coming out, you're going to want to have your grubby little mitts on Ruler Skadi. If you comment and ask me, I have Caster Skadi, if that's enough, no, not enough. You got to have Ruler Skadi. She literally is a power creep on the original caster version because she gives more quick buff. And instead of doing the defense down, she gives you an attack buff, which you can carry through all 3 nodes, instead of the defense down only being for 1 node if you go for both of them, or if you kind of spread them out a little bit. But you're just getting more damage across all 3 nodes. So this character, really nutty broken if you want to use any of your quick characters. And look, I know if you don't care about anything, I know I'm pointing at my screen right now, you're going to want to summon for Lilith in the next 2 years when she comes out. I saw how the fandom went nuts about this, and you're going to want to have your grubby little mitts on Ruler Skadi. So I'm telling you, look, I understand not everybody has a billion Saint Quartz, but if you can fit this character into your summoning rotation, she is really good, all right? As like Quick's biggest defender, I gotta make this case, all right? Then we have to really have this like whiplash where we go from a really strong set of characters. I'm really sorry, Gareth. They just did you dirty. I have no idea why they did you like that. At least you and your brother have similar kits, your Buster AoE sabers that they for some reason shafted with 20% batteries. I mean, if you like Gareth or Gawain, that's good. You gotta take some kind of hope from pulling what is effectively not a very good character. But Summer Eris, on the other hand, I mean, this is just the arts version of Chloe, except instead of, enabling you to do another summoning system, she just hits really hard and has a servant power mod. I mean, have you seen any servants in this game? They're kind of common, so having power mod on all of them while also being able to dumpster on everybody, and also having curse power mod, which you could just load up her command codes with, so you could be like, cool, free power mods all over the place. I get power mod on anybody. This character's a little good. She's a smidge bit good. I think I've already kind of talked about her enough last year when she came out, so I'm not going to overload it too much here, but go watch last year's video. This character hits like a dump truck. They're really strong, blah, 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 yada, yada, the whole 9 yards. And as much as I would love to put Summer Woo up here, because we finally get Big Woo, and she's okay, she's fine. She enables you to do some funny things, like she can make the enemies undead, so if you have like Skahawk or original Ibuki, it turns on their power mods, and she kind of supports the party. She gives battery, she gives the Buster arts up. That's kind of cool. It's not really enough, I don't think, to be like, oh yeah, you gotta hard prioritize this character. But hey, if you do pull her while you're going for, Ruler Skadi or whatever, right? She's a neat character. She enables you to do some kind of neat stuff, but it's kind of a far cry from the neat things that Summer Chloe allows you to do, where it's like, yeah, my Arash is now going to be my Buster Looper, right? I can just do abhorrent things with this character. You can just get into all types of ridiculous setups with Summer Chloe. Summer Woo, it's more funny things that you're able to do. But this is kind of how I would layer the tier list. I would say you can kind of lower your priority on, again, Lady Avalon, depending if you already have Castoria or not, because you can get by, well, not even get by, you'll thrive with just having Castoria. So then you could prioritize going for some of these other absolute banger characters over here. But again, I would still say they're fairly good, and you can still, go and summon for them. They're not bad. Technically, we'll give them the must summon type of title. But generally, that's just kind of how I feel. This is kind of my new player's guide to the absolute smorgasbord, this buffet of characters we're going to be getting for Summer 8. If you have any further questions, I should be back to live streaming and stuff as per usual starting on Wednesday, I'm hoping, fingers crossed. But outside of that, there's the comment section down below where I'll try to, answer any questions that are down there. But if you feel like your answer or question is not being answered, we have a Discord down in the description down below as well. So with all that being said, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!